Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Mother You Know, The Woman You Don't, a podcast about mothers and daughters and all the good, the bad, the whatever in between. Thank you for joining us again for another week of mother-daughter chit-chat, I suppose. We are super excited for our guest this evening. Tonight we have with us our cousin, my mom's niece, Victoria, and her mother, Deborah, and we are super excited for them to join us. Just another couple of ladies from our amazingly big family, because we are not short of ladies in our family. We have so many, and y'all probably know at this point, Mom came from one of 11, and Victoria's mother was my mother's baby sister, the youngest of 11, and we're so excited to have Victoria and Deborah here to tell their stories.
Victoria, just tell us a little bit about your life. Tell us where you were born. Tell us a little bit about your story growing up, your mom and dad. I know your mom and dad met very young and were married for 20-something years. Didn't they have 20? It was a while, right? I think they started dating in high school.
15.
Yeah, they were high school sweethearts. I know that.
15?
I think they got married in 93.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it was around.
They were probably together for 20 years,
Yeah,
but
they were
married
together.
shorter than that.
Yeah.
Okay. So just tell us a little bit about your life and what you remember of your mom.
Okay. Well, I was born in Houston-ish. I don't know exactly where. It's somewhere on my birth certificate. To be really honest, I can't recall much of my life before. Ooh, I'm already getting emotional. I can't recall much of my before my mom passed away.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do know I was a mama's girl, for
Yes,
sure.
you were.
Yes.
Yes, you were.
Yeah,
So your mom,
I know I was a mama's girl.
how old were you when your mom passed away? Let's start there.
I was 9.
Okay.
It happened
9.
4 days after my 9th birthday.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that was close to your birthday.
Yeah.
So you don't have many memories of your mom before then, and I understand that because you were young. You were
Yeah.
young. And I'll tell you, do you have well, for us, this is such a weird, it's not weird, it's hard. And for some reason, your mama was the hardest thing we talked about on this podcast. We did talk about it early on because we were just talking about the family in general, and it was very hard for even us three to get through it. So for you to get through it, we don't expect you to get through it in any kind of way.
Nope.
There are zero expectations.
Because we're just right there with you, sister.
Yeah. So don't worry about
you
that.
cry,
That's
we
not
cry.
a big deal. Yeah. No big deal. We'll just try to be cut. So what kind of things do you, if you don't remember your mom specifically, what kind of things have you learned about her since she passed away, or what kind of things do people tell you about her? I know besides the fact that y'all look alike, because y'all do look alike.
All the time.
And
all the
you
time.
sound alike, lady.
Yeah.
You do sound a lot like her. Yeah.
Deborah and I get that all the time too.
Yeah,
You do.
And I
Yes.
don't say
What's really
anything.
funny is that
Because
y'all
period.
you two do look alike.
I mean, someone's here to say hi.
Okay.
This is my
Oh,
guy.
there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Get out. I have been told by plenty of people that my mom was a very loving and caring person, and all she wanted in the world was to have a child, and I was lucky enough to be the first. Sorry, Ty.
True.
But I can tell you that if there's anything I do recall about my mom back then, was that she was that person for me, no matter what. I mean, I've heard the story of the first time I went to school. I started kindergarten. Her and my dad followed my bus in a car just to watch me walk in. And, I've been told that she's loving, caring. She's a very nurturing person for her siblings, for her in-laws, to my cousins. We did a lot of things together. My mom was always in the corner in charge of everything. Maybe a little hovery, as she should be.
She's a little, she was a helicopter mom, but not in a bad way. Like, she just...
I believe it. She tried for so long, and I'm finally here.
Yeah.
Do you know how long she tried, Mom? Do you know how long she tried before she had? Well, I guess 9. You're saying they were married 15 years.
I don't
My
recall.
dad always
I know it
says
took a while.
years.
Yeah.
It took a while.
Kevin's talked about it, and it took a while, and they found that little tumor on something that was messing with her hormones, and once they treated that, she got pregnant pretty quickly. Yeah.
Mom, what do you remember about Yvonne as a young mom?
As a young mom?
Yeah, just
as a new mom.
As a new mom, she was a new mom. She was a mom, but she was a amazing mother. I mean, she just her baby was it. So, and she was proud. She was proud as she could be of you, Victoria. And to have had a daughter first, that was all she needed. She just wanted that little baby girl and just took such care of you. Of course, Mama was involved too, as you were young and infant too. But she sang all the time. She sang all the time. So she probably sang you to sleep every night, I'm sure. And also, and even for Yvonne, she was singing when she was 2 years old, standing up beside Daddy in the car in the front seat, and that was before they put seatbelts in, or she didn't have to wear a seatbelt because she was always standing up beside Daddy,
so safe
in the car. Yeah, I know. And just singing her little lungs out. And if she wanted something, she'd kind of sing it. And we remember she standing there and she wanted some ice cream, and she just kept singing about the ice cream and how much she wanted the ice cream. And she didn't ask for it; she sang for it. So she music was big for her. Even in high school and all that, because I believe she was in choir and she was singing all the time. So that's one thing I remember about Yvonne. But she was just there. She was present all the time. So as a young mom, I just remember her being amazing.
You were in the room when one of them was born. Was it Victoria or Ty?
Me?
Or right after? Yeah, weren't you at the hospital with her one after one of the babies were born?
I think it was Ty.
I think it was Ty. It sure was. Yeah, because Mother was there, and I was there with her.
I think Aunt Claudia was there too.
That's right. You're right about that.
So you got to be in there when Ty was born?
Yes, I believe I was. Gosh, I forgot about that.
How did I know that?
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you knew that.
I know.
Yeah, now that you said that, we sure were. Forgot about that. Well, that was special too. I wish I was there when you got born, sister. But I have to think back a long ways to figure out where we were. So,
are there any memories, Victoria, that you do have about like Christmases or things that she did? Or you just
Italy.
I know it's kind of one of those before and after.
You talk about Italy a lot.
Italy.
Yeah, I do have a Christmas in mind though, and I think it was the one that happened right before she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
We had Christmas at our house. Ty was already there. He was 3 when my mom passed, so he was already in the picture, but too young to be outside. It snowed that Christmas, and we don't get a lot of snow in Santa Fe, Texas. And I remember Grandma was there, and so was Aunt Claudia, and it was probably one of the best Christmases of my life. It was my first time really remembering snow, and I got to have my grandma there, who I never got to see because she, lives in Winsboro.
Yes.
I got to be with Aunt Claudia. I got to see my other grandparents in the same day. I threw snow at my dad, but I remember my mom just watching us from the front door holding Ty and watching me be a kid.
Yeah.
In the front yard, and I think I got everything I wanted that Christmas. So that one sticks in my head.
Yeah, and you think that was
Italy
the
trip?
Christmas before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been.
Mhm.
It would have been.
Yep.
Yeah, that was this. Was that the summer before?
So when that was the Christmas before.
Oh, I was thinking of something else. Okay.
Literally days. Yeah.
Yeah. So she passed in didn't she pass
January 8th.
January 8th. Yeah, January. So it would have been the Christmas.
Right
and
before. That was.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the things that I always remember about that time is how much time God gave us with her, like us, kind of thing. Because I remember y'all came up to the mom and dad's lake house that summer, and y'all were up there for a couple of days, and then Grandma was in.
I remember that.
That was the summer.
Remember that?
We got so much of y'all that year, and it's one of those
things.
Yeah,
we did.
I think about that summer all the time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
there was like a wedding. A friend of mine
Missy's
got married
wedding.
She
Your
came
mom.
to,
Yeah.
Your mom and dad were there, and we got the whole, like 24 hours or something.
I'm gonna have to find the picture.
And
there's there's a picture of me and Dorcas and your mom outside of either Waffle House or IHOP or something, because we had a little bit too many cocktails the night before, and we went and had like hangover breakfast after the wedding, and the 3 of us are standing there, and we're all built the same. We all look the same.
Yes.
And we're all just like with each other. I have that photo. It's in my box, and it's just so between that wedding was in September, so we had the lake house time during the summer. We had the wedding in September, and then Christmas was my college graduation, and everyone y'all were there for that. I remember having the party, and y'all were at mom and dad's, and then Grandma was down that Christmas, and then so it was just like a nice 6 months of And it wasn't relatively by a lot of standards. That's not a lot of time, but it's more than what we would normally have.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been able to have.
Yeah.
The birthday, the celebration I had literally days before she passed away was probably one of the best birthdays I've ever had,
Yeah.
too.
What was that?
It was the main event that's in League City had just been built, like brand new. And I asked my mom if I could have a birthday party there. And she said, yes, absolutely, anything for my daughter. And so she rented an entire room out. We had pizza. That's when like Webkins was a thing. And she got me my first Webkins, although she played that thing much more than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had a great time. We did
Yeah.
some bowling. Bowling is a theme for my birthdays, and
is
we
it?
definitely did it at main event
Love
Yeah.
that.
birthday.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So I know the memories are sketchy, but it is interesting to hear that even for you that couple of months, and that's by no means at all a consolation prize or whatever, but it is a time and period where you can remember her and remember her spirit. Do you mind talking about the accident and what you remember? Or if that's not something you're talking about, that's fine. You can hop over that. But if you remember that time or remember afterwards, I know if you want to talk about your daddy, because you got a pretty good, darn good daddy,
Yeah.
and how strong he was, and what that time was like for you guys, just adjusting to life without her.
So the way I recall it, that morning, I was a very sassy child. Still am, by the way.
No
You can ask
comment.
Deborah.
Own it.
Sweetheart, your mama
She
was
woke me
sassy,
up.
okay?
She woke me up on the wrong side of the bed that
Yeah.
morning, and I got mad. So I hate that was my last interaction. But I think she forgives me now because I was a bratty child and I still am. That will never change.
Yeah.
But I can't really recall that day of school. I mean, it was a normal school day. I think it was on a Friday too. And I remember I got home and my mom's boss asked her to stay late that day to finish up some paperwork or whatever, which is, I guess, where it all went wrong. And we all started getting concerned, and I don't know what my dad knew before I did, but at some point later on in that evening, my dad's mom, G, she came over and took care of Ty and I, made sure I got in the shower and everything. And I don't know what kind of 9-year-old instinct I had at the time, but I felt like I knew. And I thought back on this the other day, and it's just very odd that my 9-year-old brain, while I was taking a shower, was preparing me for the worst thing that could have happened. And it is what happened. So I got out of the shower, and I think I went to G, and I don't know if she knew anything at this point, but I don't know what I said, but I probably said something like, is she coming back? I don't think she's coming back. She's not coming back. And my dad got home, and I think I was put in my room for a bit. And then my dad brought me into his room and broke the news to me, and I will never forget his words. He just told me that he needed me to be strong for him, and then told me, and then days after that are just kind of a blur. I don't remember sleeping much. I do remember waking up the morning after. It felt like I hadn't slept. I feel like that's how weeks felt afterwards. And Ty, being 3, he had no clue what was going on, but he was still the goofiest kid I've ever known. He was the light of my world at that time.
Yes.
Even though we bickered and we fought for years to come after that, he was everything to me. He's what kept my mind off of things. And I think in a way, I felt like I could take on a different role for him. And I took that role from then on, and I still see myself as someone who can, I mean, I'm the older sister, but I feel a very motherly connection to him even still.
And he's not a baby.
So,
honey, he's taller than you, and he
he's still a baby. He's still a baby. I don't care.
I know. I know.
He's a big 6
He's
foot
a
baby.
giant. He's
Yeah,
a
big,
giant of a
giant
baby.
6-foot baby. He's gonna listen
20
to
years
this. He
old.
better. But yeah, the weeks and days after that really seemed to blur together. I remember my mom's funeral, and I still don't think at that point I had processed what had just happened. So in my mind, my mom's funeral was a way for me to kind of escape from the heavy feeling of her not being there. And the funeral for me was, I hate to say it, but it was like awesome.
It
to
was
have my
awesome.
whole family there.
Yes, it
We
was
were all, everybody
awesome.
was
That's what
there.
it
Yeah.
felt like.
It was
Everyone was
awesome.
kiki boom boom. Everyone was
Yeah.
laughing. And I think
Mhm.
that's exactly how
Mhm.
Yeah.
she would have wanted it to be. There were a bazillion people there. People, I don't know. It was just great. I got to see my teachers there, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in years. Where have you
Mhm.
been? You're at my mom's funeral."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the
And
processing of it all, I don't think
Mhm.
came until much later. And even then, I didn't start going to therapy until college. And that's where everything was very raw for me. And that was just a
Mhm.
few years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I thought we celebrated her life. You know, we did. And when we were leaving and the sheriff's cars were lined up forever, you know, and the saluting of the officers and all that, I had no earthly idea how far reaching her influence was, because everybody loved her.
me either.
Everybody
yeah.
loved her. We had no idea how she had just affected so many people's lives, you know. So it was in true Yvonne fashion. I'll tell you that right now.
Big
You know,
and bold.
yes,
Center,
big and bold. You know,
center of
and
attention.
she was never shy, or you know, she never held back. She never, you know, she was just out there. She was just friendly and loved everybody and tried to help everybody, I believe. So she would be incredibly proud of you. And also,
I think you
uh,
and Ty, she would just be
oh,
blown away by
Over the
you. And
moon,
it
yeah.
probably is blown away at you guys. 'Cause I think
Yeah.
you two have turned out just so spectacular and are so talented, and you are involved in your churches, and you just seem to love people and care. And I think that is like the message that comes down from her mother to her to
mhm,
you, that it just comes that way. It comes just naturally, that you guys just seem to exude that. And we don't get to see each other very often. We don't get to talk very often. Because I always, in my head, I always go, oh, well, Victoria's my second cousin. It's because there's such a big gap between the oldest and the youngest that we have like two groups
Well,
of.
because our aunt was like 4 years older than we were.
No, Yvonne was 4
yeah,
years older than me.
Yeah,
So
that's the
yeah,
thing. It's like,
Now y'all are that much older than me, and
yeah,
I
that's what
have
I
to
mean.
ask my friends, do you guys call your older cousins your aunts? Because that's all I know them.
Yeah,
That's
that's
all I
all.
know them as.
well,
That's my
But
Aunt
even
Lydia,
thinking
my
about
Aunt
this, I just
yeah.
go,
Dorcas,
no, that's my cousin
my Aunt Sylvia.
No, I'm
Victoria.
Aunt Sylvia.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
but we're cousins.
yes. First
You're some
cousins. Yeah,
fancy Victoria.
Yeah.
yeah.
So Deborah, how long? So I know that I don't know how long. How long were y'all before? Were y'all the three of y'all before Deborah came in? Deborah, do you know how long
Well,
when you met Kevin?
Yvonne passed away in '08, January of '08, and me and Kevin started dating pretty much February of 2012. So
Okay.
just 4 years.
4
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys were
To me, it felt like so long
did it felt
before
Yeah.
my dad met you.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
and
And he had dated other people. I mean,
yeah.
Victoria's.
What? No, he didn't. Or
is it going to be that kind of?
I think most of them. Most of them.
yeah
I really enjoyed.
yeah okay
Yes.
But clearly, the winner.
No, thank
Am
you.
I pointing at her on your screen?
She's
I'm down. Yeah.
Deborah, how did y'all meet?
Honestly, I always start this as I really truly believe this is a total God thing. So
Yes.
many of these steps. So I'm a physical therapist, and I had a patient, Judy, and she was
That's
coming to
right.
me not long after. Yeah, she just passed away not that long ago. So yeah, like I don't even know. It's been maybe a month or months.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Crazy.
So she always claims that we were her one good thing she did in life. But so she came in, and, she's very outgoing. And I think the first visit, let's do an assessment, and give her some exercises. And then she came in. I really can't remember the exact, if it was the second visit, but if it wasn't the second, it was the third. And she's like, I just have this neighbor that you just have to meet. I mean, y'all just have such great personalities. He's so funny. And yeah, and she told me, his wife passed away and he has 2 kids and, but he's such a good guy, comes from a good family. And I'm kind of eyes rolling, I've had a few people say, hey, I have a son or a grandson, and it's kind of an ethical thing, right? I just you just don't date your patient's family, but okay. So in my head, I had just gotten on Facebook. I mean, I literally in November, I had just gotten on Facebook, and she's talking about him the whole session. And she's like, well, can I give him your number? I'm like, I don't know him. I'm not going to give somebody I don't know my number. And she's like, well, I go, he can look me up on Facebook. And I had my maiden name was lots of consonants and they couldn't find it. So she comes back the next time and is telling me she couldn't find my name. So I gave him my business card. I'm like, here you go. And he friended me, and it took him 2 weeks to say anything. So back then you had now you have Facebook and you have Messenger, but back then it was all connected through Facebook. You could message individuals like you can in Messenger, but that's how it started. So he was just messaging me back and forth. We were just talking and then finally a couple weeks later, we went out on our first date to Gringos. So in Pearland. And, but what's funny is hearing his side of the story about how that day she came home because she would hang out with his parents a lot. She came over after her therapy and he corners him. It's like, I have this person you need to meet, kind of the same thing, just the opposite end of it and stuff. So
I was there for that.
Yeah, I believe
you were there.
Yes, I believe that. And so it was kind of a blind date, internet combination, but just a lot of God and all that coming together. I mean, I just truly believe that. So that's how we met story. And
And how long? So Victoria, do you remember meeting Deborah for the first time, or
I remember
them dating it?
I think I was very standoffish.
She was.
I was like keeping my eye on her. Who is she?
I remember.
I do remember it was kind of wasn't it like a family?
Well, what it was is your dad cooked dinner for me at your house, and all of y'all were at his parents' house, and everybody wanted to meet me. So,
and then you came over,
and then I came over, and then you were in the G's living room with Hunter and Hannah, and I don't remember if Ty was in there or not. And everybody else was out in the man cave. So I met everybody else first, and then he brought me inside to meet you. And you weren't, you weren't rude, but you weren't like, hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But you were 13. So.
Yes, I was counting, let's see, 9 and 4. She was 13.
Yeah, she was 13.
She caught me.
It could go either way at that point.
Yeah. So,
but
all things considered, it could have went so many other ways.
Yes.
So how long were y'all dating before you got married?
Right. We got married. I mean, it was almost 2 years. Like we got married in January, and then we would have been dating. February would have been 2 years of dating. Yeah.
And so Victoria, when they told you they were going to get married, were you excited about it at that point, or were you hesitant, or you were ready? You were on board.
Oh, I was. I mean, I knew.
Yeah.
It was. I knew Deborah was going to be the one because of the way she loved my dad. And I saw them go through their thing. Not to bring that up, but I saw y'all go through that thing.
Yeah.
But the way that that love never left, right? And I don't know, you've always been from the get-go that motherly figure to me. When he proposed to you in the car.
On the car.
And I were in the back seat. I was like, oh, it's that time. So I was very excited, and
I remember her going, I get kitties, because I had 2 cats. I was excited about the 2 cats. Yeah.
Priorities.
Yeah, I remember that.
So Deborah, what was it like for you stepping in? Because you have no kids.
Right. I have no biological. I say, every day at work, I talk about Victoria and Ty.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time. And I say this because I do respect Yvonne and her being their mother. And it's like, I always say, I have kids. I go, they're my stepkids, but they're my kids. I didn't give them a choice. That's pretty much what I say all the time. Because I really didn't. I mean, I said yes to a first date knowing that I was going to potentially say yes to being a stepmom. And I don't know why. Again, a God thing. I didn't
And I
hesitate.
think that's what kind of sets you apart from other people, because I don't think other people were ready for that.
Maybe so.
Some
But
of them were already mothers, but they were not stepmothers and ready to
and
walk into another child's life and love them.
You mean somebody else that your dad had dated?
Yeah.
They're just,
With
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
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 And then you came into it with that understanding. Was it
Yeah.
a hard adjustment? I know it, you got the romance part and the
Mhm.
meeting part and the dating part and all that, but the actual move in, we're married, we're parents. Okay, here we go. Was it
You know,
difficult adjusting, or did it really just flow? Now,
it was
my
a
perception of Kevin is that he's pretty easygoing, so it seems
yes.
like, but I don't, like I've never girl, never, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it was a gradual thing. And I mean, definitely early on, I'm trying to impress these kids, we're trying to go do things with them. I mean, not impress them, but
Yeah, no,
it wasn't just, me and Kevin would do things, but we would also do things, all four of us, And then, I mean, I was not the one that was going to sit back and let any kids take control of any situation. I mean, you can ask Victoria that.
yeah.
I mean, I just don't think that I could have been in a relationship where I was going to be the step mom, if that makes any sense. I was going to be the mom. I mean, I had rules and expectations, and I mean, I had standards, and there were things that I should never have said or done, but I mean, I think every mom is that way, but looking back, but there are also things that I wanted for them, and it was a very gradual ownership of that over time. It didn't happen date one, but being even the time coming over here and spending time with them, that changed over time, like how much I influenced them. And then definitely being married and moving in, it was going to be more and more and more. But I mean, it wasn't a all or none all of a sudden, but it eventually, was more of that. Me just owning it, being a mom, Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
That was a good answer.
It is.
Yes.
It's because I'm a stepmother to 4 kids, and their mother is still around. I mean, she's still alive, but it is not easy being a stepmom. And I would imagine it's not always easy whenever and I use the word competing in a very loose way, but with a legacy of somebody who didn't want to leave.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
husband
would
who
imagine that
didn't
that's
want to get rid
hard.
of his
And
wife, and the kids who didn't want to lose their mom.
yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
I have, and I will say this because I don't know you super, super well. Like we've seen each other at family things over the years, but can I just say that my impression of you is always that you were very kind and very smart, and I have nothing but respect for you coming into that role and filling that gap and loving that for Kevin. Because like I think Dorcas said at the beginning, like to
Yeah, we
see
love Kevin.
we love
Yeah.
Kevin.
Everybody loves Kevin.
Yeah, I know
and
everybody.
and to see you be part of that, I respect it so much. And I was thinking even when I was a stepmother myself.
Mm.
Again, it's different situations, but it takes a special kind of person to do that in a way that just flows. And I love that for you, and I love that for Kevin and for the kids, obviously, because I think, especially after the passing of Yvonne and Victoria, this is something that I said to you before we started recording, and I'll say it again, but our loss of Yvonne was very different than y'all's. And it was very hard to, I don't even know, because it's like we can't even begin to imagine what that loss was like.
Yeah.
We can't.
It was
Yeah. No,
it
we
was
can't.
crippling for us, and we can't even the tenth. I've always said it doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if y'all ever got judgment or well, this is too soon or you shouldn't be dating or whatever. Because my thought is this man lost his wife and these children lost their mom. Anything they do to make their life better, I don't care what time frame it's on.
Yeah.
That is fine. It's okay. It is. You just want, like, I know for me, it's like I just want Kevin to be whole because he's probably the night Yvonne died. I think that's the only time I've ever seen somebody truly broken outside of my grandmother, who that's devastating enough to think about as my grandmother, but then to see Kevin, who just is he's larger than life. My entire life he's been larger than life. And to see him truly broken as a human and broken as a man, and to see and to know as a father that he's going to pick these 2 kids up and move forward. I agree. I think that from the minute we saw you kind of come into the picture, it's like, oh, he's whole. You know what I mean? Like he's whole, and it's okay. It's okay.
Because
Whatever
I think
timing, whatever. It is so good to see him whole and see him smile, and I think that's no dishonor to Yvonne, and I think it's
No,
no
not at all.
dishonor to anything. And
I mean, I didn't know her, but I think she would have wanted that for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She
You
would
know,
have.
I mean, I
Yes.
think
100%
she
would
would
have
have
been
wanted him to move on,
She would have wanted him
broken
to
see
be
him
to
happy,
heal and
heal. Yes.
Yeah.
and just
And to be happy and to laugh
Mhm.
and to joke
Mhm.
and
We do
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You can't if he's in the room. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
help it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the same
He's
we want Victoria and Ty to be whole, as whole as they can be. It'll never
Mhm.
be, you can't ever say it'll be, whatever.
yeah,
But as
healed.
whole as God can make that. And so I'm so glad for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna tell this story, and it's gonna sound insane, but I'm gonna say it because it's hilarious. After Yvonne, there's a couple years after Yvonne died, but I think like probably before y'all got together, probably 3 years after your mom passed away. I was talking to Grandma Annie, and I was talking to her about. I can't believe I'm gonna tell the story, but I'm gonna do it anyways. This is how crazy your grandmother was. First off, we're talking about something, and I was like, "Are you just praying for my husband?" She goes, "Well, Lydia, Kevin is single." I was like, Grandma, who's
I
Kevin?
know.
She's like, your Uncle Kevin. I was like, Uncle Kevin is single. She goes, you're not related by blood. I was like, Uncle Kevin is single. She goes, he's such a great guy. I was like, I agree, but Uncle Kevin. And I was like, Grandma, I'm not going to marry Uncle Kevin. I love Uncle Kevin, but if anything, that's a testament to how
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
how much his mother-in-law loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I appreciate the setup, Grandma. I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
She
I'm
was
going to pass.
She
She was
wanted to keep him in. She was going to.
Yeah, she was gonna keep him in the family. Exactly. Definitely.
Yeah,
I
but
think I talked to her one time before she passed on the
That's where
phone.
we
I
met you,
think
was at her funeral.
yes,
I
at
think.
it was. That was the first time I
Like,
met
nice to meet
everybody
you.
was at her funeral. Yeah, we didn't bring Ty up there. It was me, Victoria, and Kevin. But I remember one time he was talking to her on the phone, not super long before that, and she was happy for him, So
Yeah, she loved him, and he's
Well,
such
my
a good
thought,
guy.
yeah, my thought was always, if Yvonne could have picked somebody, she would have picked you. You're the one. She would have picked Deborah. I thought, good job. There you go. So,
I think so too.
because I think God works
She would
things
be proud of
out.
the other
Yeah.
mother.
Yes,
Yeah.
she would. Yes, she would.
Victoria, was the
Yeah.
marriage and the adjusting to having a mother figure in the house, what was that like for you from your perspective? Was it smooth going? Was it an adjustment?
a lot of taking her phone away.
Very much so.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That was my
Yes, it
initial
did take a
source
lot
of
of that.
punishment.
Yeah.
Um,
Was it that thing that you bought her a phone and gave her a phone just so you could have leverage
No,
later?
because I never would
That's
have let her.
not what
I
it
would
was.
honestly, I never would have let her have a phone. She had
Yeah,
a phone before
to
I was
begin
there. Ty did not get
Okay.
a phone until he was 15, and I'm like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it just watching her with it, I was just like, no, you don't need a phone. We know where you're at.
Yeah. True.
I think it was quite a big adjustment for me. And thinking back on it now, I really do mean it when I say that Deborah would have been the one that my mom would have chosen, because all
Uh-huh.
my mom wanted was to protect me
Yes.
and guide me in the right direction. And there's no one that could have done that like Deborah.
Oh, thank you.
I'm crying.
I should say that
Crying
now, but if
episode.
you asked 13-year-old me, I'd be like,
No, it would have been a different answer. I know it would have
Yeah.
been.
But yeah, 13-year-old me did not take
Mm-mm.
it well. And I think it was mostly because my dad was healing the way he
Mm.
knew how, and he was healing in a way that gave me so much control as a 13-year-old. I wasn't a bad kid. I would never
No.
say that about
Mm-mm.
myself. I was never
No.
a bad kid. I never snuck out, never did anything
No.
behind their back. But I definitely had I was very headstrong from the get-go.
Mhm.
Like I was taking care of my brother.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was taking care of my dad.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. But I thought so. I thought I was the head of the house. And so I didn't know that then, but that's how it was. And my dad, and even when I was younger, my dad would say, she controls me just like Yvonne does.
Yeah.
So it was hard. And my dad had expectations for me, and he raised me well. But his expectations were not the same as Deborah's. And I think my dad was also, he saw me healing, or at least trying to process. And so he gave me expectations that were pretty minimal and very easy for me to meet. Like he always would tell me, just pass your classes. C's get degrees, but Deborah
That's
stepped in
wrong.
the door.
Mm.
No more C's.
Mm-mm.
I tell you what, I got through graduate school with almost a 4.0. And I
Oh,
give it to
wow.
that woman. Where's she at? I mean, I was going through it in high school as every teenager does, but overall,
You grew up in
I
high
think
school a
I
lot
turned
more.
out even more through college.
Yeah.
And
Oh, definitely through college.
I don't even know if I would have gotten these degrees if I didn't have Deborah around.
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
what kind of person I would have been just as headstrong, but maybe a little more
Mhm.
stupid if I didn't have Deborah around.
Because I'm just a little bit more headstrong than she is.
Yeah.
She is.
I am.
I'll stay up and play
Yeah.
video
Oh,
games
Yeah.
and she'll call me out for it.
Yeah. I'd say that's
That's where
the
we're at.
secret of being a mom. You just got to be
You
that much
just
smarter.
yeah, just a little bit. It comes
oh.
from being the youngest of 5 and being the girl, and 8 years apart from the next youngest. I was so stubborn and spoiled as a kid and just got my way, and I'm still expecting that to happen as an adult. So it's just
Yeah, I
how
was
it
gonna say
goes.
we didn't really touch on like tell us just briefly like kind of where you were born and kind of what your family life was like and what your mom was like.
Well, I was born in Houston. Both my parents were raised on farms, not about 2 hours, towards Austin, LaGrange area. And so I grew up, I say I'm a city girl, but I'm not. I grew up going to the country like every other weekend, every spring break, every summer break, every Christmas break. So I have these values of this old school. I mean, I just do. Like my grandmother lived to be almost 101, lived her
Wow.
whole entire life
Mhm.
in the same house. She planted potatoes the May before she died. She died in August of 14. But that May, she was planting potatoes with my parents. I mean, that's just, she never stopped, never. I mean, just didn't know any different. And I think she only had a 6th grade education, but it wasn't that. She was very practical, knew how to reuse everything, fix things. She just knew so much. And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And my dad worked, and I am grateful for having a stay-at-home mom. Like, I wish I could have done that for Ty and Victoria, but it's a different world. But, she was always the one that came to all the parties at school. She would go on the field trips. I mean, she picked me up, took me to school. I mean, every day of till the end of high school, we're very close. Actually, she had a stroke last April and has recovered. I mean, she recovered very well. It happened right in front of me, able to get her to the hospital and they did the clot busting medication and she didn't have any residual from anything from the stroke. But she's been having memory problems. And with her, after the stroke, she stayed with us. And I'm just watching her and I'm like, I can't let her go. Like, I can't let her go to the country because she was up in the country by herself. My dad had passed away about 7 years ago. December was 7 years ago. And so she was up there just on her little farm doing her thing. But I just couldn't. Like, I just knew something was going to happen. Like, it was going to be a medication mistake. She was going to fall. She was going to, something. So she's been with us ever since. So, and her memory is definitely getting worse, but she's still helpful. Like, she washes the dishes and folds clothes. I want her to be as useful as she can be, when she can. And it's hard sometimes, like, because she's just as stubborn as me. So it's just like 2 of us in a household.
Come again?
I know. I'm like, Kevin's getting a preview of what I'm going to be like when I'm 80. So it's just, but I mean, but she's an awesome mom. Like, I mean, I know she's just always been super supportive. She's the one, anything happens in my life before, when she was living away from us, she was living on her own. I called her every day, sometimes twice a day. If anything happened, I called her. I told her about it, whatever that was. I mean, at any point in my life. And, she just celebrated that with me, whatever that was. Or we cried about it, or we just talked about how to fix it or work on it or whatever. And I had an amazing dad too. I mean, but he was the stoic, quiet, I knew he loved me, but he never said it until the very end. But I knew he loved me because they came to everything I ever had, every volleyball game or whatever it was. I mean, they were there. They were super supportive about everything I did. And even when I had my own house, he'd come over and mow my grass for me, just things like that. You showed your love. You didn't always say it. And that's something I've learned in this family is I've never said I love you as much as this family says I love you. Yeah. I mean, which, I think saying it is that I don't know. That's just grown on me. We just didn't say it. We just showed it, I guess. And now we say it and we show it,
Yeah. We always laugh because I've had my other cousins on here, the ones that married in, Randy and Misha.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that Misha said that she said our family was not touchy feely, and
Uh-huh.
y'all touch a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we do. It
And
is
Kevin's
totally
parents are like that too, though. I mean, they're
yeah,
very, I love you and kiss you, and it's just like joke with
yeah,
you, and it's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
so, but other than that, I mean, yeah, and like I said, the youngest of 5, so
And you say you had all brothers,
I
or
had
do you have
3
sisters?
brothers, a sister. So my oldest
Okay.
brother is 13 years older than me.
Okay.
And then my sister is 8 years older than me. So there was
Okay.
4 of them within 5 years. God bless my mama for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how she did that, but she did it. And then me 8 years later. So
Yeah.
I was the surprise, and she got her tubes tied and all that
Yeah.
after that.
She's like, "Yeah."
No more surprises.
Yeah.
Only one who got a college degree.
Mhm.
I mean, others went to college, but they never finished, and not. I mean, they just all worked. They're all successful. It's just, and I think that's when Victoria talks about school. That was always very important to me. Like, and it wasn't about getting A's. It was about trying your best, and that drove me crazy because I watched her in high school not try her best. And I knew
Yeah.
she could do better,
Yeah.
and I'm
I was
glad.
surviving.
Yeah, you were surviving. Yeah. But at least in college, that changed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it
So
became more important to her. So
what do you think made that change for you, Victoria? What do you think that shift was when you think about your
I think
education?
it's because I didn't have someone behind me saying, hey, turn that in.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I noticed when I was turning things in and staying up late and putting the effort into my grades, I was being rewarded for that,
Mhm.
having good grades and scholarships.
Yeah. Oh, that'll make you work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I carried a 4.0 until my last semester of my graduate degree. I guess once I started seeing that pay off is when, unlike Deborah, the A's meant something to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't about trying my best, but I eventually, once I got that first B, I had to do
Yeah.
it. Well, I did try my best.
I love that Kevin was like, just graduate. Just
Definitely.
that cracks
Well,
me up.
Definitely.
Still a last child move. You do that with your last child.
Yeah, that is so
Yeah.
funny. Uncle Kevin.
You know what
Yeah.
else is for you? A's. A's get degrees.
They do. And scholarships.
Yeah.
And money.
Yeah.
That is so
No.
funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well,
Victoria, what is one thing, especially when, oh, I'm sorry, Mom. Do you something?
no, I was going to say, it was important to Yvonne. Yvonne did well in school, and she worked hard, if I remember right.
She was hard on me.
Oh,
In
yeah?
the small amount of time that I had,
Uh-huh.
it was reading every single night.
Yes.
I
Yes.
hated it. I screamed and I cried.
Too
But
bad.
that is one thing I do
Too
remember.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, I know things I remember though about Victoria is she was really, I wanted her to ask for help, and she did not know how to do that, or she felt, I remember you talking about this one time, like, because I wanted you to go, okay, I need help with this. I need help with this. And you just would not do that. Not on a consistent basis, because I'm like, I may not be sitting there in that classroom with you, but I knew I could always help you with it. I could help you figure it out. And you were just like, and this especially high school, more than anything. You just wanted to move on, to get it done, get what you had to get done and move on. You remember talking about that in the past, Victoria? Because I remember talking about that you just, I don't know if it was yours.
Like talking about my struggle.
Talking about, I remember telling you, if you can ask for help, it's okay to ask for help in school. If that was me or someone else or whatever. And you were like, you said you just didn't want to burden us. Like you didn't want to, I don't know if that was true or not, but it was like, you didn't want to put more on us, I guess. I don't know.
That was probably true at the time. Honestly, like now thinking back on it, I feel like that changed for me in my graduate degree.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Mm-hmm.
like I had to ask for help all the time, and I eventually reached out to you to read over
Yeah.
my teacher, whatever.
Yeah, that class.
I think it was just the fact that I kind of wanted to just do things and get it done, not really care about the outcome.
Yeah.
And
I
that
think
got me
so
by.
too.
I
Yeah,
could have done better, but I don't fully remember that conversation, to
yeah.
be honest. But
I think it
You're
was
like,
just,
but it
I
sounds
still
like something I'd
struggle.
say.
yeah.
I still struggle today asking for help. Like, I mean, being a voice teacher,
That
I'm
could be
broke.
like,
I ask for help.
yeah.
Make it work.
Well, so that could be like the oldest child thing, because I'm not asking anybody for help. I'm just going to do it. And then it could be from
Maybe.
just being so independent,
She is
having her
very,
taking on what seemingly feels like an adult role, being there for your dad, being there for Ty at such a young age. that it just becomes innate. It just becomes, this is what I do.
I
It
agree
could
with
be
that.
Yeah, it
I
could be
do.
that. And
Yeah,
you
you
can
had to
ask for
you
help.
had to grow up really quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I did.
From one oldest child to another, it's okay. It's okay to
Thank
ask
you.
for help. I don't have a degree, but it's okay to ask for help. So Victoria, when you think about Deborah, and now, okay, obviously now knowing that she has her mom there, now that you know both of them, what traits do you think that you've learned from her that have kind of meshed into who you've become? You know, because like obviously, like there's things that you've gotten from your mother. Your boys, y'all both sing spectacularly.
Yeah.
Y'all look alike. You're both just beautiful, kind people in this world. So we see the things that, you know, we know what you get from your mother physically. What do you get from Deborah, who came in as your mother? What do you think some of the things you learned from her that you'll take with you?
I think a lot of my personality does come from my dad, but I think the majority comes from Deborah. I like things the way I like them, and I will get it done. I mean, that's Deborah.
Yeah.
I would say I'm really stubborn, but as I've gotten older, I think I care about the things that I have more, less about the things that I want, and I would say the same for my relationships. I care more about my relationships and maintaining them and how I love people rather than the amount of people that I have around me.
Mm-hmm.
Quality.
Yes, quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
I like things clean all the time, even though I can't do it all the time. I love things to be clean. I feel like, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I do live with my partner, Kendall.
Yeah.
I'm very much like Deborah.
Yeah.
My Deborah and dad relationship is
Yeah.
very much like
Yeah.
Kendall, me and Kendall.
Yeah.
I do feel like a leader in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of making things happen. I don't want to say I wear the pants, but Deborah wore the pants, and I think she's passed them down.
Yeah. Oh.
I got the hand-me-down pants.
It's like the
I think
sisterhood, they just fit.
they just fit.
Yeah.
Finally,
Traveling pants.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think I have Deborah's strength, like soul strength. Deborah's strong physically, but I think I have the grit that Deborah has to really put herself up against anything in life.
I get that from my mom and my grandma.
It's such a great lineage.
It is.
Great merged lineage. And like I said, I think you two look alike.
We
You
do.
Yeah,
two
you do.
look alike.
You have the dimples.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
know.
easy.
You do. Y'all,
You really
y'all
do.
It's
look
the hair color.
physically like mother and daughter. You know,
Yeah.
we laugh about that here because Cody's girlfriend has a 2-year-old daughter, and they've been together over a year and a half. So she's the only daddy that Cody knows. And I keep saying she looks like Cody, and she'll even do weird mannerisms. Like Cody takes things like cups out of the cabinet, and he smells them, like he sniffs them. Like I don't know if he just got a jank cup at some point in life, but now it's
And
just
a
habit
cup.
because he'll use it and they're clean. I promise they're clean. But she'll do that. She smells dishes, and it's just the funniest little mannerisms you pick up for the
That's
people
really
around you,
odd.
and they're not biological at all. Like they just don't even, but they're starting to have the same facial features and the same
Expressions.
eye rolling and cutting eyes. You having to tell them you need to settle down because she's starting to look like you. She's just starting to look. But you two do very much look alike, and it's interesting because we haven't had a lot of opportunities to see you guys like in person.
Yeah.
At all. So it's neat to sit here and look at you two and think, this is that woman's baby. Yeah.
When I was, people thought she was my older sister.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
good on
Which
you.
makes sense too.
Yeah. No, that's great.
I love that. I know. I'm trying not to cry again. I don't know why. I don't know why that made me cry. I think it's because
Okay.
one of the things that I really struggled with, and I'm not embarrassed to admit it, but after your mom passed, I struggled a lot with anger. I was very angry because, and the things that I would say is like, there is no way that there's ever going to be a reason that this happened. This is
True.
the stupidest, most human, mortal thing. The conversations I would have with God, because my God is strong enough to deal with my being pissed off. He's bigger than that. He's
That.
bigger than my being angry. And I was like, God, you'll never convince me that this was a good thing to happen, that there was a purpose for any of that. And I struggled with that for a really long time. And I still don't know. But I think that the only thing could be that this was just his plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were his plan.
You were his plan,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's bittersweet and it's sad, but it makes me happy for you, Victoria, and for Ty and for Kevin, and because like Dorcas said, like the memory of that day is ingrained in my memory. If someone was to ask me about January 8th of 2008, I could tell you everything that happened
Yeah.
from 5 o'clock on.
Oh yeah.
Because, and I don't, Victoria, I don't know if you remember, but we were all at the house that night. And I remember looking at you and you were just a babe. You were so young, and everybody's in shock. And we were all staying up all night long waiting for grandma because they went to go get grandma and tell her in person and bring her home. But we were there till 5, 6 in the morning, all awake. And I remember Ty running around and looking for his mom. And we're all having to do that. And I remember just being so angry. Like I was so mad at God. I can admit that. And trying to figure out like what in the actual heck is the purpose of this? It makes no sense. But with maturity and, healing and trusting God and all that kind of stuff and seeing y'all and seeing how happy Kevin is. And while you had to lose something, you gained, God replaced what he took in a beautiful way. And I love that for you. And I love that for Kevin. And I love that for you, Deborah, to have that. And, it's a weird feelings to have when you can be so pissed off and so happy about the same situation.
Yeah.
And have those same kind of things where you're like, because there's still times I still get mad. I mean, it's selfish reasons, I had, and I apologize not to make it all about me and my fifis on the situation, but like I had this plan in my head that Yvonne was going to sing at my wedding. There was a plan and the plan didn't happen. And I was pissed off about that, and what's so funny is that it took Aunt Lynn. No, it took Aunt Patsy. Aunt Patsy reminded me of some stuff, about the stuff that I did have in my plan, and Grandma wasn't there and Yvonne wasn't there. And I think I even told Kevin and I talked about that at Aunt Pam's celebration of life because Jared and I were about to get married, and me and your dad talked about that, and I was just telling him how happy I was for him. I was like, selfishly, I'm a little pissed off, and so I could just I can admit that it's not always the easiest thing, but I look at this and like even just sitting here talking to you guys for the last hour, it just there's a peace about it that I'm like, I'm sitting here going, okay, God, I'll quit being angry.
It all worked out.
It's Jesus. But I think that I also make up the story in my head that, because Victoria, I don't know if you know this, but Grandma talked about a couple of months before Yvonne passed away, she heard God talking to her and said, get ready, you need to get ready. And
did you
Grandma,
know this story, Victoria?
yeah, did you know that?
Yeah.
She said she was doing her prayer time and she was really...
Let Mom tell that story.
Okay.
If you
Well,
don't mind.
she was in her, talking to the Lord, but she just knew the Lord impressed on her and said, Annie, you need to be ready for what's to come, was what the message. And I don't remember if it was in a dream or if it was just in her prayer time or just something she felt from the Lord that said, Annie, you need to be ready for what's to come. And so, and Mom, she loved the Lord. She walked with the Lord. She knew the Lord. She, and so when this happened, I don't remember the time span between, where she heard from the Lord and Yvonne passed. But we got the phone call from Arnold had called and asked to talk to Daniel. Because I picked up the phone and Arnold asked to talk to Daniel. And I thought, well, that's weird. Arnold never calls to talk to Daniel.
Yeah.
And so when we found out and we got the word, it was just so devastating. And all I could think of was Mother. I could think, I thought of Kevin and you and Ty. Because y'all come to our mind first. And then I thought about Mother. How are we going to tell Mother? Oh my God. And so as the phone calls started going around and we're getting dressed because we're coming. And my question was, who's going to tell Mother? And so David calls and says, Aunt Sylvia, my daddy, remember James? I don't know if you remember James or not, Debbie's husband. He's fixing to go over to Grandma's house and tell her. And I don't think he needs to tell her. And so he said, you better call him and tell him not to go over there yet. Because even he knew she didn't need to hear that from him. That's for sure. And so we'd been talking to Shirley, and Shirley says, I can be there in 2 hours. She was in coma now. She says, I can be there in 2 hours. And I'm thinking, oh, Shirley, it's 2 hours to Tyler. But no, she says, I can be there in 2 hours. So
no, honey, she was hopped up on Marlboro Reds and Dr. Pepper. She could get there in an hour.
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew she was flying. And so I finally got a hold of James, and he says, "No, I'm coming. I'm going over to tell Debbie and Mother no." And I said, "Don't you dare, James! Don't you dare!" He says, "Well, they need to know." I said, "They don't need to know from you."
Mm-mm.
I said, "She needs to know. She needs to hear this from her own daughters." And so he says, "Well, how do I know?" I said, "Well, you can sit up at the top of the hill, and when Shirley goes by, and there won't be no doubt about it, she'll be flying. So, and then you can follow her in, but don't you dare go up there." And Shirley did get there within 2 hours, and she went and got Loretta. And then she went and woke Debbie up, and uh, Loretta told her, "Now, Mom, remember, the Lord already talked to you and asked you, could you be ready for what's to come?" And it just, it broke her heart. But she said that was the only thing that kept her from just totally losing it, was that she had just felt the comfort of the Lord.
Yeah.
And even in that, as hard as it was, and had, as painful as that was. And Loretta had said, "Mom, remember, the Lord had said to be ready for what's to come." And it's just not something you can be ready for, I don't think. But it was a
No.
Tell her
comfort to
how
her.
Shirley told her.
Shirley walks in there and said, "Mama, your baby's dead."
Oh my goodness.
That's what she
That's
said.
how
Like,
Shirley
why would we
told her.
elect Shirley to do anything in this
That was
family?
Shirley Maud. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But
Yes.
anyway, and that's
Dr.
when
Pepper and
they,
Marlboro Reds were the
yes,
fueling.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
That was Shirley Maud.
Clearly.
So it was hard for Mother. But I thought she held up pretty good, I think, whenever we were at the house later on that day. Later on. So
When you think about Grandma, because we talked, like I said, we've talked about Grandma a lot, and I don't know if you heard the episode where we had a video of her. Lydia had done an interview with her years ago, and it was just an audio
I
tape.
think I
And
had
we
a
have
chance to listen to some of it.
Okay, yeah. So it's great to hear. It was great to hear her voice. I know
her
for a lot of us,
voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
we've got a lot of the family calling and all the guys, David, Dougie, and Chad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
David did. He said,
Yeah, he loved it.
"Well, isn't that a lad?"
But
David.
what do you remember about Grandma and the lineage of her, even if it was not through your mom? But what do you remember about her, or is there anything you take away from her?
I mean, because we lived so far away, we didn't have as much interaction as some of the grandkids did, but she never let me lose sight of the way that she loved me. Even after my mom passed, I was getting phone calls from her telling me happy birthday. "Hi, I love you." And I was always getting cards from her. She would always write cards or write digital cards. I always got digital cards, but yeah, I knew her love for me more than anything. I remember her hugs. I mean, also I was a lot smaller then, but they always felt like what is the word? The embrace was so big.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. You speak so beautifully about people. I
Thanks.
love the way you speak about people. So I guess, like, Deborah, for you being the mother in this relationship, and Victoria, we can talk about kind of you're nowhere near the end of your lineage, and Deborah, you're neither. But what do you want your legacy to be for Victoria and Ty?
That's a tough one.
It is.
I mean, definitely, I want them to be happy, but I want them, honestly, Victoria's heard this to me, I want them to be self-sufficient and independent. I want them to continue to be kind. I mean, I want them to find somebody, and I mean, I think Victoria has, but Ty's only 20. I always threaten Ty. I go, "Your future wife's going to have to go through me." I mean, because they both deserve somebody that loves and
Emmy.
gives. And yeah, that definitely. But they both deserve somebody that loves and gives as much as they do. I mean, that more than anything, that's what I want for them,
And Victoria, as you go through life and you start thinking about your future, what do you want your legacy to be? I know you're still very, very young and starting out your life and starting new relationships, but what is something you want to strive for when you think at the end of my life in 100 years, I want people to know this?
I would want people to know my love for others just as I know my family's love for me. That's what I would want to leave them with. Not only my love, but the effort that comes with love, because you can love someone without really loving them. And I'm not just talking about like how I love my partner, or how I love my parents or my siblings, whatever. How I love people who are different from me. That's what I want.
Yeah.
If I were to have a kid, I would want them to be headstrong. I would want them to treat others the way that they want to be treated. But more than anything, I want them to love others and love on others and share that with the world.
Yeah, and that's what God calls us to do.
Yeah.
And I think
Amen.
I've been in such a place this past year where it's like I just want to know God in the simplest form, and that's what it is. God's just love. It's just
Mhm.
That's
love
it.
yourself, love your neighbor. That's all He tells us to do.
Mhm.
Love your
Yes.
neighbor.
Mhm.
So that's a very, very good lineage to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And
Because
I
your
think
mother
it's
was
the
like
lineage.
that.
It's obviously the lineage where you came from.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And
that was your
like
mom.
so,
She loved people, and she did. She loved people. She loved you.
it's your grandma. It's your grandma. It's legacy of your grandmother. It's clearly the legacy
Yeah.
of Deborah and her mother and her family
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
through. You can see that the way she looks at you and talks about
Yeah.
you. It's just it's good. It's a fantastic lineage to have.
It is.
And I have no doubt that you will carry that on, my dear.
Yes, you will.
Because she was truly mom and dad's love child. Because I said you were 8 years younger than your next child. Yvonne was 8 years
Yeah.
younger than Deborah.
Yeah.
Because Deborah
Oh,
was
that's
8
funny.
when Yvonne was born. Yvonne too was a
That's funny.
surprise, and also, and she was raised almost by herself because the rest of us were older, and
Mhm.
she was raised by herself. And there's pictures of mom and dad and Yvonne at Yellowstone, and vacations. And we're
I was the
thinking,
same exact way. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we had vacations when I was 4 and 5 years old with all my siblings, but there are things where it's just me, my mom, and dad because they were
Yeah.
all doing their own thing.
Not us,
know?
not a one of us.
Mom's like, we didn't get to go to Yellowstone.
Yeah. I mean,
Where was
Vaughn
this
gets to do
Yellowstone
that.
money when we were growing up?
Yeah,
Yellowstone money.
So
Yellowstone money.
it was like we look at her and think she's a spoiled little brat, and she just got everything, But she was mother's just little doll, and daddy's.
Yeah.
So that's the truth.
She was good people.
She was absolutely.
Well, ladies, I appreciate this so much.
Yeah,
I do
You're
too.
Like
very
I said,
welcome.
this
Me
was
too.
this is a long time coming because we've not had these conversations, and it's been.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I want you to know that
It's been
you were
way
probably
too long. Way
well.
too
I mean,
long.
Victoria, you were actually on the list very, very early, but I think it was us making sure that A, we could get through it, and B, that you
You
were
would want
ready
to.
for it. I think it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more. It was more
From
of
the
us.
moment y'all said y'all were doing a podcast about this, I was like, sign me up.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
Well,
good to know because I think our fear
Oh.
was hurting you because we don't want you to hurt. We
Yeah.
just want you guys to be happy
Yeah.
and be in a place where you can talk about your mom. But I can see that this is healing for you, having Deborah.
I mean, it
in your-
was
that's healing.
early on, I asked a lot of questions. I mean, I asked Kevin all kinds of, just in front of Kevin about Yvonne. I mean, it's like I wanted to know her without ever really getting to know her. I mean, I asked about the accident. I mean, he told me, how he came home to tons of, police cars in his driveway that night. And he told me a lot, but I asked the questions because that's just who I am. I want to know.
Yeah.
And I've talked, me and Victoria have talked, and I think over the years, I mean, she's done her own healing too, just as she's gotten older too, trying to even now process it, understand it.
Yeah.
Working through that anger has been a big thing for me,
Yeah.
Lydia.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things? I guess I don't know how to ask. I guess that when you say you're angry, do you feel like you are over being angry, or are you just working through it?
Working
where are
through
you
it,
at
I
that?
think for a long time, up until my earlier years, anger was kind of my natural instinct to a lot of things, and especially regarding the trauma response with my mom.
I would say, I'm sorry to break in, but I would say you were just naturally defensive.
Yeah.
Like to a lot of things until you knew.
And I still work through that. I
Yeah.
still struggle with that. But I think what I've done to kind of heal that was obviously going to therapy. But since I've been away from therapy, when I'm angry now, I ask myself, where is this coming from? Am I actually sad about something? Did something not work out the way I wanted it to? That's what I ask myself next. And then usually I start crying
Yeah.
because I'm actually sad. I'm not angry.
Don't you love therapy? I love therapy.
Everyone should go. But calling it out rather than facing situations with anger has been so much more peaceful,
Yeah.
first of all.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think
it's
And that's key,
part of
too.
that is learning. Like I think, like I said, because I was in therapy for years too. I mean, obviously not for the same reason you were, but it's learning to remember the things that are traumatizing without reliving them.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard thing to do. But it's like when you recognize it and you know what those things are that kind
Those
of, and I hate
triggers,
the word
yeah.
trigger because I think people use the word trigger for everything now, but it is.
Yeah,
It's something that's
it
inside of you
is.
that snaps
Mhm.
because there could be a smell or they could be a this or a that or, you know, whatever. It's being able to remember the bad thing without physically reliving it. Because those are the emotions that are so raw. And when you can
Yeah.
look at it with a rational is not even the right word, but it's just being able to do that, and having therapy teaches you how to do that. And you're
Right.
like you said, like, I'm not really hating the world today. I'm just, you know, not liking the situation I'm in or something like that. It's a very mature response, Victoria. Good job.
Thanks.
You got an A in therapy. Ooh, I wish.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate it. Like I said, you were at the top of the list, and it was just, I think, finding the right timing. Because I
Took
know
a year for us to ask, but we did it.
Well, but we've also prayed about it because, like I said, the very last thing I want to do in life is traumatize you more if you think about anything. But we do want to. I am grateful that you agreed to do it because we've been behind the scenes. We've been pretty excited.
Yes.
Oh, me
Because we
too.
just haven't.
Yeah, really
We
have.
just don't get this opportunity.
I think for the last year, I am like, when are they gonna email me?
So
It's
sorry
okay.
we didn't
It
do
was
it
right timing.
sooner. Yeah.
I'll show you the list. We're
Probably.
really at the top.
Yeah.
I
Highlighted
believe
so
you.
all down.
Yeah.
I
You
love
guys
that.
were. So Deborah, I
Yes.
am grateful too because I know this is awkward or could be awkward for you or scary or whatever because this is not the norm just to get on here and publicly talk about.
I
You
mean,
know,
when you're as young as I am and you tell people, hey, my mom's dead, you have
Yeah.
to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Especially
do.
when you're this young, because
Yeah.
obviously it didn't happen to natural causes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had to talk about it a lot
Yeah.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're comfortable with? Or do you feel obligated to do that, to talk about it?
It's something I'm comfortable with.
Do you feel like it helps you?
I've never felt obligated. I've never been confronted by someone who's like, tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me how your mom died.
I just think
No.
it's part of your story. You
It
know,
is.
It
I mean,
is. It's a huge
is.
part.
it's if you don't say it, I guess it just explains your perspective sometimes when you include that information, you know? So
When someone's like, tell me your life story, it has to fall in there somehow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you
That's
said,
a
it's that
huge
before
part.
or after.
Yeah.
It's like you
Yeah.
said, you don't have a lot of memories of it before. I mean, you don't have a choice, but
Well, let's start here. My mom died, and this is how it went.
life started on January 8th of 2008,
2008.
you know? Goodness gracious. Well, your mother was such an amazing woman, and I feel like just sitting here talking to you, I see a lot of your mother in you.
Yes.
And that's a blessing to get to experience that. Very grateful you did that because your mother was so important to us, obviously, and to you and to Ty and to Kevin and, you know, to Deborah too. I mean, I think that,
Well, it's part of Deborah's story too.
yeah, it is. It's to come into that, and nobody wants this chapter. Nobody wants, let's have this in the family legacy. Nobody wants that, you know, but I think, and I feel like I want to tell you all these stories about your mom. I wanted like to say, you know, your mom don't tell all these things. And I think, again, we talked about that year before leading up to that. And I don't even know if you remember this, but she was the person that I would call because I had a lot of boy drama back in the day. And your mother was who I would call with that boy drama. Like every time me and my boyfriend would fight or something, I would call your mom. And then there was this one time where it was just so dramatic and we had broken up and it was just terrible and the world was ending. And your mother she goes, get your bag and come down. And I came and I stayed with y'all for the weekend. And me and your mom sat on the front porch and we didn't talk. She just let me sit. And we probably drank and smoked too on the front porch, Mom. So don't judge.
That's what you do after a breakup.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. And I slept in your bed, and I think she put you in Ty's room, and she put me in there, and she just let me be sad.
Yeah.
And she didn't have to fix anything. She just let me be because that's who she was. I see that in you, like just the way that you talk about what your legacy wants to be is just to be, just be. And I hope that there is some times where you have peace and just know that we'd love to talk. I mean, if you ever want to come on again and just have more talk, we'll more.
Yeah.
We
We
can go on
should.
for hours. Some are like 3 hours long. We can do
Yeah.
it. So
I feel like, and not to touch on this right before we end,
No,
because we
keep going.
might have to do a part 2, but the experience of grandma hearing God talk to her,
Mm-hmm.
I've had very similar experiences with my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we want to go into that?
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Okay. So from a really young age, I don't remember how long it was after my mom passed, but I remember it being pretty soon after I had a dream. And it was never in prayer, it was always in a dream where my mom would come to me. And so in the first one, there's always a medium. So I've had multiple of these dreams. There's always a medium before I talk to my mom. And in this first dream, it was my dad. And I remember I woke up in my dream, which is a weird concept. But I remember in my dream, opened my eyes and I'm in a rando's house. But my dad was there. And he said, someone's here to talk to you. And it was my mom. And she didn't say much. I saw her face. She looked at me and said, everything's going to be okay. And boom, she was gone. Boom, she was gone. I got 0 words in. And I've had multiples of the exact same, different scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Change it up, I guess, Mom.
Yeah.
But it was always those words. And I remember my most recent one, it's always like a family medium. The most recent one, it was me, my cousins, we were like, and Deborah would know what I'm talking about when I say this, but like the pasture behind G's house. That's where we grew up playing and being kids
Camping at
and
night.
going into the woods and being stupid stuff. Yeah. So there we were in my dream and we were all just running in the same direction, not running from anything. We were just like sprinting. And at some point, Hunter and Hannah, y'all know who they are, right? They separate from me, and from behind me, my mom comes up and she just looks at me and says, everything's going to be okay. And she went up. But yeah, I've had multiples of those dreams, and I had a really weird thing happen around the time of the Santa Fe shooting where this was after the most recent dream. So the most recent dream was like years ago before the shooting. Around the time of the shooting, I went to a friend's brother's visitation. He passed away in the shooting. And it was at the Hayes funeral home, which is where my mom's funeral was.
Where Dad
and
was.
she's buried out there, yes. So I don't know why, but I just felt the need to leave and go see my mom. So that's what I did. And I went out there and I sat for a long time and I was just talking and crying, being like, why does this happen? Right?
Yeah.
There's that anger again of like, why does this happen to a whole town and a whole school?
Yeah.
Right? And this car pulls up. Deborah, I think I've told this story once, but I don't feel like anyone was really, it was a family gathering. No one was really listening. But this car pulls up while I'm sitting on the ground, and I don't know who this is. Who's pulling up on me? I get up real quick, ready, and this man gets out of the car, and I'm like, okay, what's happening? And he's an elderly man, but he walks up to me and he says, what are you doing? I say, I'm just visiting. And he goes, oh, me too. Just starts a random conversation. He says, I just got done finishing visiting my wife at another cemetery, and I just felt called to be here. Is this your mother? And I said, yeah. And he said, it was tragic, wasn't it? And I said, yeah.
Now, is this
He
in
said,
a
okay,
dream?
well, no, this is happening.
Oh, actual.
This is happening.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And he told me, he's like, well, you are loved, and I want you to know that everything's going to be okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I had another instance like that happen while we were at Day Spring Church. There was a guest speaker, and he did the thing where everyone is at the front altar and he's going up to like individual people and talking to them. And I don't know if you remember this, Deborah, but y'all were behind me. And he came up to me and said, I don't know why I'm pushed to tell you this right now. This is within a week of that man saying this to me. Pastor, he comes up to me and he says, I don't know why, but I'm feeling, I just need you to know that everything's going to be okay. And then I had a friend who also told me the same thing, and it had to do with my mom. And she was like, I think your mom wants me to tell you everything's going to be okay. So,
Girl, God
not
wants you to
messages
know.
straight from
That's-
Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, but my
Yeah.
mother is very.
She's active.
Won't be okay.
Okay, Von Joanne, we got it.
But and Mother always shared a dream that she had after Daddy passed away, and said it was as real as could be. That he come in and sit down on the bed. He said, "I felt the bed move," and he said, "Now, Annie, everything's going to be okay, and you need to continue with our plans. You need to go ahead and do what we planned." And their plan was that after he retired, they were going to move to Winsboro, to the little retirement home that her mother and daddy built on the Peckerwood Flats, and told her to, no, you just go on and do what we're going to plan, that we planned on doing, and don't worry about me. I'm fine. She said he was so beautiful, said in her dream that he was the young, handsome daddy in his pictures, And so she did. She got up and planned on moving. She moved to Winsboro and left all her kids behind. She said she
Wow.
gone. Yeah, literally. She left everybody behind and moved in that little house. Now, one by one, I think Claudia moved, Loretta moved in, Deborah moved in, but she left all her kids behind, So, but that I think the Lord gives us those messages to comfort our hearts. It's to comfort us during
I
those.
think one of the comforts was
truth of
too
it
that
is that everything will be okay. It won't be great. He didn't promise everything will be great, but
Yeah.
he did promise that it could be okay, and he does promise that we can have peace even in all of this crap storm that we have to live through.
That he
Yeah.
walks us through.
Yeah,
yeah.
He walks us through. You're right.
yeah,
Sometimes he carries us kicking and screaming,
That's
but
true.
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true
Depends on the moment.
Yeah.
That's usually how I go.
for the moment.
Yeah.
Underneath an
Yeah.
arm, kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But I
that,
like to take comfort in the fact that, again, it goes to that, like Victoria was talking about, like getting angry, be like, God, why would you do this? Why this is so, ugh. I try to find comfort in the fact that maybe, I know that there's like no marriage and family and all that in heaven, but I want to believe that, Yvonne and Grandpa greeted her.
Mhm.
The minute she was to be absent from the body was to be present with the Lord, and that she hugged on Jesus, then she hugged on her baby, and she hugged on her husband, and it was the three of them for so long without everybody
so
Yes.
else,
long.
and then they were the first there.
first three
The
Never
first
thought
three,
about that.
it's.
to
I
be
mean,
together.
God's got his methods and stuff, and
Mhm.
I try and find comfort in that. I still
Yeah.
don't like it sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you can go, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'll be quiet.
And that's the
Mhm.
comfort that we have to go to when Yvonne passed. And the first thought
Mhm.
was, oh, she's with Daddy, and then Mother. And then when Pam passed, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, she's with Mom and Dad and Yvonne. And the same with Claudia or Shirley or Loretta, not Loretta,
Loretta's not
Beth.
dead,
Yeah,
no.
Loretta's not.
Loretta's not dead yet.
Beth and Shirley. Yeah, because it's just
Ooh.
me, Loretta, and Lynn,
Yeah.
and Mac and Alan.
Yeah, we're down to 5.
Yeah. And Alan's
Wow.
MIA.
You
We don't know where
but
he's
you
at.
know- well, yeah, but it's like also comforting that it's half and half. That it's like half is there getting everything ready. We're just gonna
Mhm.
have
Yes.
that. I don't know. It feels somewhat comforting. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we'll give it to God. Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Well, there will be a
Yeah.
reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah. There will be a gathering of these Chapman people. And even at Loretta's, at Beth's
You keep saying that.
house. I know I keep
He's
saying
not dead,
that.
Mom.
Well, that's just because I get the names mixed up like Mama did.
I still don't know all straight. So
Yeah. no,
Yes.
Mhm.
I'll keep it straight.
At Beth's house with all these cousins and all these people, and it was it's bittersweet. So, but the comfort is that the first thought is they got to see Vaughn.
Yeah.
So they got to be with her, and we will one day.
But
in the meantime,
everything's gonna be okay.
Deborah, we're so
Right.
happy
And we are happy.
that you showed up, girl.
me too.
Should have
Thank
taken for you
Hey, God,
here.
God's timing.
God.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is God's timing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
he's still in charge. He will take care of us.
Okay, ladies. Well, I am so grateful that y'all
I am
came in.
too.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much, and I know this was a emotional roller coaster for us
Yeah.
and for you. So, but I appreciate you taking the ride anyway. So thank you again thank you to anyone who's listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, rate on all of your podcast platforms. You can tell I don't normally do this part. Please follow us on all social media, and thank you guys. We'll be back again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.